All right, we got a weird one here. So Jake Baldino, one of the guy I believe at Gamer Ranks who does like some of the before you buys, has his own channel, and he has a video out called "People Aren't Playing Games Anymore." And based off of the thumbnail, it shows some of the biggest games of the year with people with super low play times on it. And I thought this would be an interesting one to take a look at.
Okay, two things I want to talk about in the gaming news world this week. The first involves gamers not really playing games that much anymore and more just watching them. Yes, we're talking about that right now as you're here watching or listening to me, but this is an interesting
play video
new
games
report.
and try to get people to watch me play them.
Research.
It's
I think
odd.
that's how you say it, like Medea goes to school or whatever. But it's a UK marketing research firm, and they came out with this big like 17-page report that suggests, like I said, gamers may spend more time watching games than playing,
which is super strange.
This report breakdown comes from GameSpot. I'll link all the sources.
If only we could find a way
down below, of course. But according to the report, the total average time that players devote to their hobby is approximately just under 16 hours a week,
which is a lot.
7.4 hours are spent with the games, while the remaining 8.5
That's actually
hours
wild.
are devoted to watching the gaming content.
That's actually
on
wild.
Twitch, YouTube, and social media outlets. This is also not like a long-term like trend research. This is actually pretty recent. This is from the second quarter of 2024, and it spans different types of gamers, different ages, and of course across multiple countries. Now, I don't have access to the whole report. I would love to see the age breakdown for this.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the more interesting things. I'd love to see, where the drop-off is in terms of like what generation is watching games more than playing them, because you would think it's the younger audience, right? Glued to their phone, TikTok brained and stuff. But I mean, on the other hand, there are plenty of people on the older bracket that are very busy and don't have a ton of time to play games, so they tend to watch them. Now, I'm kind of going to give some credit to this report and kind of back it up because I see it. We've talked about it before. I've talked to you guys in the comments about it.
So this started during COVID, hugely during COVID. I think a lot of people were looking for communities to be a part of because they couldn't go out and be a part of a community. And the watch time of Twitch and YouTube just skyrocketed. It is one of the reasons why I can afford a house was COVID. It was wild if you are a content creator. And then the world opened back up and those numbers dropped down. But now we're seeing an incline once again. And I don't know what that is due to. I don't. But it is 100% a thing.
Here and there. There are folks out there that fell off video games. Either they're not as into them anymore, or maybe they don't have the time for them, or they don't have the money for them.
True.
Either way,
good point. That's a good point.
They still kind of are in that world, and they
That's a
follow
really good
along
point.
with gaming news. They watch people talk about video games. They watch videos and playthroughs of video games. They read the news. It's like they're still hooked, and I think that's totally fine. Some people fall out of hobbies, but also people forget too. Sometimes people just have ebbs and flows with their hobbies. You might have a year where you play a shit ton of games, and then you might have a year where you kind of fall off.
So I don't know. So every year at Christmas, I kind of have a phase where I'm just like, I just want to play a game for me. And in multiple previous years, that game was Stardew Valley. I love that game. It's incredible. They seemingly normally put like a giant update around Christmas. I think it was last year and then a couple years before that I just went hard. But generally there's like, in the summer, there's like one game that I play through for myself. And in the winter, there's one game I play through for myself. Not on stream, not anything. And this year I'm debating whether to do Metaphor or whether to do Path of Exile 2. I don't know. If you have any opinions on which one I should grind out, let me know. It won't be streamed. It won't be on videos. It'll just be a game I'm playing. Maybe we'll talk about it, but
life happens or something like that. But not for me. I'm the permanent YouTube video game loser for the rest of my life. But this does seem to be more of a recent thing. At least I've seen and I've talked to people and I've heard about it more recently. And with this report being the second quarter of 2024, it makes sense. Now, of course, the ultimate question is, has gaming fell off? Is gaming washed? Is gaming cooked? Whatever the kids say. I don't know for sure. I think the study is only so much, and this needs to be.
I wonder where
like
they get the numbers from, though, in the study.
Trend. Again, time in this is pretty evenly broken up between watching and actual gaming, but it does lead into more on the watching
Personally,
side.
I do them at the same time. I'll have like
because, like I said
video
before,
up
some people
while I'm like
falling off the
grinding
hobby, but also
zombies,
just
or
some people being super tapped in, super glued in. I know I certainly am. When I'm not playing games or when I'm not working and I'm just like doing whatever in my life, I always have a podcast or a YouTube video or whatever running, listening, just kind of in that world.
That's a really good point. Like, to play a video game, you kind of have to be like locked in and invested in it. To watch a video, you can be cleaning your house and have it on on your phone or listen to a podcast or really anything
just
like
looking
that.
by audience numbers and stuff like that out there, I'm pretty sure it's not just me. Just listening to stuff, watching commenters, watching creators, watching video games is a big part of a lot of people's media diet in this world. Plus, more and more, this stuff isn't like as segmented as much. Like it used to just be like, okay, video games and this, but like some people watch a content creator
Reload.
video games, but they are also like their politics or like whatever. There are a lot of merging genres. I've seen fitness gaming YouTubers. Like these things are kind of all melding together one way or the other. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to hear what you guys think. But there is more to this study because it is a marketing research firm. They did suggest something pretty dumb, in my opinion. They say that the research, and I quote, highlights the untapped potential for game publishers to bring video content inside their own ecosystems. With GamesIndustry.biz also saying that the report claims that 24% of console PC players and 48% of in-game buyers watch game-related content at least monthly, with the latter considered high-spending gamers. So the real quote is, revenue is left on the table. Game publishers are seeding significant revenue opportunities, especially advertising to third-party video game platforms, even as the game market faces growth challenges.
So they're saying, oh, they should like monetize people watching. People already do that. You don't need the developers to like, I mean, Call of Duty's doing it with the Codcast or the Cod Pod or whatever they're calling it, but like.
So yes, growth challenges is definitely a thing. We've talked about that in the past, especially the last couple of years. Definitely growing pains or sorting things out. We'll talk about that more in a little bit, but yeah. So obviously publishers are looking at people playing, watching, talking about games on YouTube and Twitch. And yeah, they are.
And honestly, it has been a controversy for years for developers. Like, for example, for Indiana Jones, we're playing through it here on the channel and on Twitch. And are there going to be people that don't buy the game because they watch me or someone else play it? Yes, they lose money for that. But at the same time, it's also advertising. Every single time I am playing Indiana Jones, I'm like, this game's incredible. If I get like a couple people to go buy it, but a couple people to just watch my playthrough, is it a net win, net lose? I don't know.
Missing out. I think any marketing research firm should point that out, but it's a matter of like, do you take advantage of that? Do you go for it? We talked about this in the past with publishers trying to take control in their own ways, one way or another, with Nintendo basically copyright claiming
everything,
all Nintendo videos at one point and wanting creators to sign up for like their creator platform or whatever.
Weird.
To the other side, like it never really took off, but like some publishers had kind of wanted to share information and news about a game only in their ecosystem, in their own bubble, essentially creating YouTube channels with hosts and people.
And that's the Cod Pod that we talked about.
Like an online thing, but
this is becoming more and more of a thing.
And upfront as just the publisher's thing. That never really landed because
Diablo
it's like
does it. Path of Exile has done it.
Really be marketing at the end of the day.
Call of Duty does it.
Content creators and people like me, you may not always like us or trust us, but we're still better than just the company on the other side putting out content or videos around their product. It seems super disingenuous. Trying to sell you.
Yes.
So with them suggesting like, hey, these publishers have to like reclaim essentially this lost revenue. They got to like take back from YouTube and Twitch. It's an interesting thing, right? Because like it can also be argued that YouTube and Twitch are helping drive awareness of these games.
Exactly what I would just said.
These games
it might sell more or not.
So while yes, they are missing out on ad revenue and sweet views and clicks, their stuff is getting exposed and games are getting played or watched or bought, whatever. And this report suggests them like creating their own platform or something like that. What are we going to have, like the Vimeo of 2K games or EA or something like that? Or are they going to start putting videos in their games or on their games? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I think what makes the most sense is the current existing platforms, to be honest. That can always be shaken up, but it is what it is right now. YouTube, Twitch, all those things are just major drivers. But again, that's just what I think. I'm just kind of armchair guy and not really like an analyst or anything like that. So I do want to know what you guys think. Hey, now before we keep going here, let's talk about today's sponsor. It's Factor. If you're new around here, all you need to know is that Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your door.
I don't understand the never frozen thing because they come in ice packs. And I guess technically that's not frozen, but the first thing I did was put them in the freezer so that they'd Anyway,
it makes things super easy.
good, though.
For me, this time of year with the holidays, we're running around getting a ton of work done for the rest of the year, and also Christmas shopping and stuff like that. So not a lot of time to really spend time thinking about meal prepping, grocery store shopping, and stuff like that. So
and it saves you time on, I don't know why I'm talking so much about his sponsor, but it saves you time on cooking, as well as having to not think about what you're going to make for dinner,
Factor
especially
has
if you're in
come
a
in
relationship.
clutch. They have a bunch of great tasting stuff, and
You know
I
what I
throw it
mean.
in the microwave 2 minutes,
What
and
do
I'm
you
good to
want for
go
dinner? No,
and
what
back
do you
doing
want
what I
for
need
dinner?
to do. But all while eating good and feeling good. And they offer a ton of different options, a variety of different meals and add-ons, a weekly menu of 35 options with some popular stuff like Calorie Smart.
I did keto
vegan
when I
and
was doing
veggie
it.
options, keto, protein plus, anything you need. And speaking of protein, I've been going for some of their extra stuff, like the protein shake
want to
recently.
try
It's been
those.
great for me on the go. All this stuff tastes really good, and like I said, they have a ton of different options for meals and add-ons. So if you want to check any of this out, all you got to do is click the link in the description down below or head to factor75.com. And when you're there, use code 50onjake, one word, to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free shipping. Again, use code 50onjake for 50% off at factor75.com. And big thanks to Factor for sponsoring these videos. Now, let's jump back to it. And welcome back. If you're new, this is Two Things. Every Wednesday here, I talk about 2 gaming news stories that I find interesting. Yes, on the Game Ranks Friday news show, I do breakdowns, like quick breakdowns of all the news. Here, I like to dive.
When I see people like this, I always wonder, like, so Gamer Ranks is like a company. And I wonder, like, does Jake, is he like an owner in it? Is he just like kind of like a face of it? Like, how much does he make? Like, is he a salaried employee and then he has his own channel? I always wonder how that works, and you never get to know, but
specific on stories that I just like. Also, while I have you, just keep your eyes peeled. PlayStation is celebrating like its 30th anniversary this week, and I'm cooking up a cool video just talking about my history with PlayStation. If you want to hear that, that'll go up a couple of days after this video. But this next story actually is PlayStation related. It comes from ex-PlayStation boss Shawn Layden. Shawn Layden just goes on record all the time, man, just talking his shit. And it's really funny. But he seems like a very pragmatic, practical person with how he's been kind of, being the canary in the coal mine for certain issues in current game development and game business. There are a lot of quotes from him all the time, but the newest one, this headline that caught my eye is he did an interview with Eurogamer.
The war is over?
Essentially, he was asked if it's worth it to keep selling games to an audience where like the growth rate of that audience isn't like exploding. Layden kind of explains, and I'm summarizing it down here, that essentially if the audience isn't like growing at a rapid rate, or at least the rate that they're spending, essentially they're selling the same games to the same people. And until that changes, he argues that the cost of making these games needs to like really come down. The quote is,
okay, interesting. So he's saying that because the amount of people playing games is kind of stagnated or peaked, there's no point in increasing the spending on said games, because all of these games are costing like hundreds of millions of dollars to develop.
Every generation, it costs twice as much to build a game. What costs $1 million on PS1 then costs $2 million, then $4 million, then $16 million. It goes exponentially. During the PS4 generation, which was the last I was associated with, game dev was $150 million if you want to be top of the line, and that's before
the marketing budgets are huge.
Math, PS5 games should eventually reach 300
they already
million
have
to 400 million, and that is just outright not sustainable. We've talked about this so many times in the past, not just with the PS5 generation, but like how many games have been put out, especially like by Square Enix those last couple of years, where every single game they put out like failed to meet expectations. They're spending so much money and so much time to make these games. Their expectations are sky high for every game to become the next big Grand Theft Auto, Fortnite type of thing. And that's just not the reality. And more, it seems like some of these companies are,
Concord is like just the obvious
Ubisoft
one.
just featured more layouts. We've talked about studios shutting down and studios laying off significant portions of their workforces over the last couple of years, pretty much nonstop. He also talked about the development length and how expensive it is, and also because of the idea of bloating a game, making a game a 100-hour thing. If only 50% of players see the end of your game, what about all those millions you spend on the final
very
level
good
for
point.
only half the people to see it? There's so much money being put into making huge game experiences, and people aren't seeing it. What would Francis Ford Coppola do if you walked out halfway through his movie? So he's talking about the use of resources and how things have changed, where the early days of PlayStation, not
One thing I have always wondered is Call of Duty does this live service game thing, right? I wonder what it would look like to have a campaign that isn't out all at once, where like maybe once every 2 weeks a new mission comes out, or once a month a new mission comes out. Would more or less people play it? Would it be more of an event? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it's interesting.
Every game would like have massive interactive worlds or doors you can open and interiors you can go in. Now you can, but at this point, it's like at what cost? Because back then, an interesting point.
It'd be great for content for me. I will say that.
PS1 generation, you don't have a lot of money, but you do have a lot of time. But now things have switched over, and a lot of gamers are in their 30s and they're working and they don't have a ton of time, and they're not finishing these games. This was essentially a whole long round.
Right, because instead of having like a 6-hour campaign to play through, you might have a 45-minute mission once a month to play through. Can someone play 6 hours all at once or 45 minutes a month? What would I'm very curious.
Argue that for part of the way to fix this unsustainable game industry, game development thing is to make games shorter. Now that's a very divisive thing. I know plenty of people that are happy.
Like Modern Warfare 3
shorter,
sucked because it was
really,
shorter
really
campaign.
Damn good games, but I still know, and I see a lot of people in comments that still want every single game to cost $20 and last them 400 hours. So I don't know what the reality is here. There are so many games out there, and there are always so many games being made that like every type of person, every type of want is going to be targeted. Some people will argue against that, but I do think there are just a shit ton of games out there, not just talking like PlayStation's next big AAA thing, but still the biggest battle there is that the price of games is also going up with a $70 US price tag. Shorter games, people are going to have even less tolerance for that. That's just like a war, a bubbling up waiting to happen. So good luck. It's a really great interview. If you do want to read it, I'll link it in the description down below. A lot of really good quotes there. He also has a really, really good analogy for expensive game development and stuff like that, comparing it to building cathedrals in 16th and 17th century.
Interesting.
And then realizing like how much labor and cost is going into that. It's the good stuff. So if you want to check it all out, I'll link it down there, like I said. But that's all I got this week. But of course, I have a bonus thing, just a little holiday chat with you guys. I wanted to share something. I don't have any like bonus link or anything to share this week, but random gift giving tip wanted to share with you.
Interesting.
I actually recently just discovered this. Maybe you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever. Parents are often the hardest people to find a gift for.
Is this a
right?
sponsored thing?
Parents do their thing. They pretty much have everything they need. Some of them don't even have any hobbies, so it's tricky. But I figured out a hack last year. There's a good chance one of your parents out there, or relative, has an old Christmas decoration.
That reminds me of my childhood.
That they no longer have. This is very specific, but it'll actually really kill. Trust me. So I had to rack my brain of something like that. But like our family always had these little musical.
My family
Christmas
had like literally
bears,
that,
right? And it was like the house's favorite decoration. And then over time, decades, it was gone. Like we just don't have it anymore. So all of a sudden in my head, I was like, oh, remember that thing? And I went on eBay and I found one and I bought it for $20 and I gave it to my mom for Christmas, and she opened it up and it made her cry.
Aww.
There you go. That's your easiest Christmas.
So like get like an old Christmas decoration.
You totally crush by just buying some weird shit your mom has nostalgia for on eBay. You might think I'm crazy, but if you're out of ideas,
what the thing you bought was.
It's a good one. But those are the two things I wanted to talk about this week, and then a random.
So I don't know what the answer. So both of those topics were about increased price of video games and then people playing them less. So the price of developing a video game is going up, but less people are playing it and more people are watching it. So it creates this gap in between the two where only certain companies and certain games can actually make up their development costs. Hence the big problem that we're having. So I do think both things that he said in that video completely go hand in hand. And I think there will be a change in the way the games are developed. And I'm curious if you guys got to that point where I was talking about a Call of Duty campaign, do you like that it's just all out right at the beginning? Or would it be better to segment it and like maybe once a month, like season 1 reloaded, season 2 reloaded, release a new mission, or maybe in between there to like divide that gap? And I don't know, it might add more development time to the campaign, which could make it better. More people might play it or less people might play it. I don't know, but it's interesting nonetheless. And I think it'd be cool to have all of the community playing that one mission at one time and getting the story out there in that way. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. It might be stupid, but let me know what you think.